From the primitive drawings of the ancients to the sophisticated science of quantum physics, the desire to transcend the human condition and go beyond our ordinary existence into the very essence of what we call consciousness is a deeply rooted human impulse.
There is this incredible mystery. And that is why yoga, in the great Master Buddha said, awakening is not the end, it is the beginning.
A tradition over 5,000 years old, yoga is thought to be practiced by 2 billion people worldwide. How did this ancient practice evolve into the yoga we know today? And what is the sacred promise it holds for our future? In this series, Gaia travels to India, considered the birthplace of yoga, to help answer these timeless questions through the thoughts of scholars and students who have dedicated their lives to yoga.
We're trying to cultivate our intellectual capacity to do rather deeper questioning and understanding about the nature of ourselves and life around us.
The yogic world is a very vast world, and every sage, every being, does different translations of different things, It depends on which perspective you're looking at it. So you are also right, and I'm also right. So both of us are right.
The answers to the questions depends on context, depends on lineage, depends on the type of practice you're doing, depends on the goal of the practice that you're doing, and then the answer changes in relation to all those factors. So the more profound the question, the more difficult it's going to be to answer in any general sense.
While the world of yoga can be challenging to contextualize, one thing is crystal clear. With dozens of different paths and infinite ways of practicing, yoga is much more than spiritual gymnastics.
The goal of yoga is freedom. Freedom from self, freedom from the burden of life.
Yoga is meant to shape the life, its way of living.
Basically, yoga is understood by physical practices, and that is very, very unfortunate.
It's the transcendence of the body, transcendence of the ego, right? The surrender of the ego to the divine.
Unless we learn to accept life as a whole, we haven't learned yoga.
The 8 basic paths or forms of yoga we will touch on in this series are Hatha Yoga, widely known as the seed of all modern yoga, Bhakti, Karma, and Jnana Yoga, sometimes seen as the paths of devotion. We will dive deep into the often misunderstood ritualistic path of Tantra, and Raja, considered one of the most difficult paths requiring great self-discipline and practice. Nada, the path of union with the Absolute through sound. Kundalini and Kriya, the yogas of physical action and energy. And lastly, we explore ancient archetypes and mythology. All are ways to attain the same goal, to awaken, but are in no means the complete story.
All these yogas are interdependent. You can't separate them, actually. You can't be a Jnana yogi without practicing Karma yoga and showing Bhakti yoga and having Raja yoga. And you can't do Karma yoga without the understanding of Jnana yoga and without the devotion of Bhakti yoga. They're all interconnected. It's just the way you look at the picture that's the difference.
You'll find that there are some systems of yoga that focus on postures mostly, for alignment and stretching and dealing with the strengthening of the body. There are those who might just focus on meditation, those who might focus just on mastering the breath. Others who would focus on the philosophy, understanding the knowledge of it and the wisdom of it and the science behind it. But yoga embraces all of that, which makes it a very complete science. Guru Guru Vai Guru Guru Ram Das Guru.
The very word yoga means unity. But unity with what? Self? God? The universe?
It's not just a union of our breath to our body, that's part of it. Not just a union of our mind to our muscles. Yes, that's part of it. And certainly not just a union of our nose to our knees or our fingers to the ground. It's a union of this self, meaning this self I identify as, with the capital S self, the supreme, the universe. It's an awareness that we are that.
What is the purpose of yoga? Is uniting the individualized consciousness with the universal consciousness. We need to do practice what is called sadhana. Sadhana means learning the method of meditation, and then you get connection with the infinite in the form of ineffable peace, ever-new joy.
We start to understand the mind, recognize the mind for what it is, and learn how to work with it and change it in a positive way that we choose, so we can become essentially kings of kings or queens of queens, really masters of our own mind rather than victims of our mind.
One of the great examples we have in our history, yogic history, Krishna. He was in the world, yet he was not in the world. He had a yogic consciousness. That is the consciousness, and that is known as Raj Yoga. When you apply the teachings in your day-to-day life, you know how to talk, you know how to listen, you know how to sit, you know how to serve. Then you are Raj Yogi.
No one really knows when yoga began. Its comprehensive nature seems as vast as the heavens themselves.
When we are speaking in the yogic traditions, all teachings are ultimately channeled. This is not of human realm. It's not from a thought. It is from a mystical experience that when you get into that state, you are having a download, like when you're creating a piece of music that changes life, like Mozart's. Ultimately, all teachings are being downloaded from the cosmic womb, the Akashic, everything. Einstein did not make up theory of relativity. The general theory of relativity was always at work. Gravity did not come all of a sudden when Galileo came. It's inspired action.
Yoga can be seen in two different forms, the exoteric, or external form, and the esoteric, or internal practice.
The exoteric side are the general beliefs, worldviews of the religion, the beliefs of the religion. The esoteric is something that's open to everybody, but very few people are interested in. It requires a different type of temperament. In the West, a yogi is anybody who practices any type of yoga, but a yogi in India usually means like somebody who's very full-time committed to esoteric practice, right? The hidden secrets of religion.
Exoteric yoga is the more recognized physical form of yoga, with its postures, breathing practices, and techniques. And while both forms are meant to develop a complete individual, often one begins with the exoteric and gradually, over time, integrates more and more of the esoteric or internal yoga techniques.
In our practices, we are working on all dimensions of being. We are not ignoring your body, we are not ignoring our energy, we are not ignoring our thoughts, we are not ignoring our belief system. You address all aspects and thereby creating an integrated being instead of lopsided. If you're just doing only on a body level, you're doing 21 poses after 21 poses every day, that's all you're doing, it's lopsided development. You're maintaining the body strength so much, but the energy is weak. Your conscious is not releasing. You see, your emotional body is all over the place.
Passed down through oral transmissions in the beginning, yoga's written history dates back to the Indus-Sarasvati civilizations in northern India, circa 1500 to 1000 BCE, when the word yoga was first mentioned in the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is the oldest of 4 collections of hymns and sacred texts known as the Vedas.
Veda means, it is a Sanskrit word, Veda means known knowledge. Whatever known up to now by human mind, heart. So Veda means knowledge about nature, about yourself and your relation with nature.
The view is God is perfect in an atom as in whole universe. If in an atom a God can exist everywhere. That is our view.
This existential knowledge at the very core of yoga can only be grasped through a basic understanding of the extraordinarily complex language that birthed it.
Grahya grahaka samvitti samanya sarvadehinam yoginam tu visheshoyam sambandhe savadhanata. For thousands of years, Sanskrit has been considered a kind of revealed language, a divine language. It's also called Devavani, which means the language of the gods. And the word Sanskrit itself means refined, perfected, polished. What's different about Sanskrit from some everyday language like English is that the vibration of the syllables themselves is understood as a vehicle for transmission. Sanskrit is thought to encode something fundamental about the nature of reality. Many of us have experienced that Om is a fundamental vibration. Om is that underlying vibration of everything. And yet Om is also a word in Sanskrit. It's a word with specific meaning. It means yes, or so be it, even at the same time that it transcends meaning.
Every language has a certain element which is dominating. English has water as the dominating language. That's why everybody more or less speaks this language, because of the water element in it. It flows. Sanskrit, it has the Akash Tattva as the dominating element. The sound of the Akash is silence. This language was not invented by the human mind. It is the language of the gods, of the ethers. This language exists in the universe. We believe by vibrating these sounds, you stimulate that specific element in you. So when you recite the sounds that carry the perfect sound current, you get freed from imbalances as far as the physical body is concerned, as far as the mental body is concerned, as far as your energetic body is concerned.
These divine sounds, refined through the songs, mantras, and rituals performed by the Brahmins and Rishis, carried yoga's message for thousands of years, until the last of the Vedas, the Upanishads, appeared somewhere around 800 to 500 BCE. This series of sacred texts containing over 200 scriptures, along with the other Vedas, are thought to have provided the spiritual core and philosophical foundations for the future development of both yoga and Hinduism. Then, beginning around 1000 CE and lasting over 800 years, India was invaded, and entire cities were burnt down, and the populations massacred. Not only were their lives in danger, but their entire culture was facing extinction. Yoga went underground, and the mystical teachings that had been so patiently and devotedly distilled and refined were fractalized.
Many of these practices were banned. Yoga was banned, martial art was banned. If they were caught, they were imprisoned for life. So much of these ancient teachings became hidden, and it was practiced only by some of the masters.
What emerged was a mishmash of various ideas, beliefs, and techniques that often conflicted and contradicted each other. And then, sometime between 300 and 1,000 years later, Patanjali emerged and is thought to have created the Yoga Sutras, the first systematic presentation of yoga.
Who is Patanjali? We have some stories. We don't really know for sure. Some scholars think that he just went around and collected practices and encapsulated them. Others think that there were various texts that he drew straight from and knitted them together. His brilliance was that he refused to allow himself to be pinned down to any one tradition. But Patanjali's Yoga Sutra encapsulates in less than 200 short sentences the problem, the path, and the resolution.
And so it's explaining how, through these various practices, you can achieve enlightenment, which is termed within the text Kaivalya.
The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali refers to the 8 limbs of yoga and systematically outlines a process of encountering, examining, and transcending each of the various gross and subtle levels of false identity or ego until only the jewel of the true self is left. Because one limb builds on another, the Eightfold Path has sometimes been depicted as a tree. The trunk is the common life of egoic self-involvement. The branches are the uncommon realizations of the inner world. The leaves and fruit are the self beyond the ego. The 8 limbs of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi offer guidance on how to live a meaningful and purposeful life, and will be covered in more detail in episode 2.
It's a very systematic way to learn how to, 1, recognize the mind, 2, purify the mind, 3, focus the mind, and then ultimately learn how to subdue or silence the mind so that we get an expanded awareness and consciousness when our mind becomes quiet.
What's interesting to note is that while Patanjali's Eightfold Path is seen to provide all one needs to live an intentional life, it mentions no poses at all, other than the seated meditation posture. In fact, the Sanskrit word asana, as used in the Yoga Sutras, means posture or seat, and are intended as ways you could sit for extended amounts of time with the sole purpose of cultivating awareness.
At least 2,000 years ago, you start seeing the Buddha and the Jain saints in lotus position and other postures that are suitable, provide a kind of steady, solid base for meditation. The way yoga is understood in those early texts is a way of kind of just completely stilling the body and stilling the mind. So anything that is uncomfortable, couldn't be held indefinitely, is really not going to wash in that context.
One of the purest understandings of asana is as the throne of the divine. The remembering through our practices that we are divinity in human form.
which means that we as the creation have all of the qualities, the fullness, the wholeness, the completeness, the divinity of the divine. So that's who we are.
The Yoga Sutras went in and out of popularity many times in the years that followed. Its austere nature appealed more for aesthetics and holy men than common householders.
A lot of people don't realize that Patanjali's Yoga Sutra was written for and intended for Brahmin men who had renounced worldly life and were doing full-time ascetic yogic practice. And so a lot of the teachings and practices in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra make sense within that context. And this is precisely why modern readers find that text so inaccessible.
Then, in the mid-20th century, a 5'2" giant hit the yoga scene. Born in a small Indian village, T. Krishnamacharya ascribed therapeutic value to specific asanas and refined the postures in a sequential order, making them an integral part of meditation instead of just a step leading toward it. Krishnamacharya's yoga instruction reflected his beliefs that yoga could be both a spiritual practice and a mode of physical healing.
He brought yoga for the general public. Down to earth, he did that a common man will adopt yoga. And that is what is needed. Otherwise, everybody has got a picture in the mind quite different. Oh, if you have to become a yogi, you have to be completely a different person, or having different personality, having different tendencies. But here, Krishnamacharya introduces it to the normal, common people.
He repackaged, reformulated yoga for a global audience that perhaps had different needs from it than what was prior to him. He's clearly, whatever the influences were, he came up with something very special, which has captured people all around the world and continues to do so.
Though he never left his native home of India, today it's difficult to find a yoga tradition Krishnamacharya hasn't influenced. His transformation of Hatha Yoga is covered more in depth in our next episode. So whether you find transcendence in prayer, meditation, asana postures, or a combination of all three, one thing is clear: all of them play a significant role in becoming a practicing yogi.
You find your path by trying anything that you want, you know. There's no mistakes. But in order to find out what really works for you, you have to get out there and just do stuff, you know, see what happens. If it doesn't work, try something else.
We are holistic beings. We have bodies and emotions and thoughts and intellects and spirit, for lack of a better term, for the part of ourselves that we can't name. All of that needs to be addressed. All of that, so a holistic yoga is internally coherent and addressing all the layers of our being under whatever name. The question is my practice and is what I'm learning, does it address all aspects of my being and allow me to integrate them all into my spiritual life, or is something left out?
Ultimately, yoga or any discipline, any spiritual discipline, should take you more and more inward to understand and appreciate your own inner extraordinary nature. That's the goal of yoga, that's the goal of spiritual life.
Zen teachers often say that the teachings are like a finger pointing at the moon. The finger is useful because of what it points us toward, not as an object of study for its own sake. Yogic Paths' aim is to deepen your understanding of this very sacred practice with the ultimate goal of raising the consciousness of the entire planet.
I think best case scenario is that more and more people are going to take in yoga and be moved, probably through the physical practice to begin with, to really start to explore our own consciousness and to recognize that the consciousness in me is not different than the consciousness in you, even though our personalities are different, we speak different languages, our skin is a different color, et cetera, but the knower, the seer, the lover within us is one. And we need to know that. You know, before the planet blows up, we actually need to know it.
Coming up.
In the West, Hatha Yoga, which is seen as the kind of easy, relaxed postural practice. But actually, the word Hatha in Hindi just means force, means hardcore, really means hardcore.
Power is power. It's kind of like fire. You can use it to cook food or burn down a house.
And then?
Longing is really grace in the first place. Without that grace, you wouldn't be looking for anything. You get born, you drink beer, you watch TV, and you die. That's it, you know. It's the longing that saves us.